Hello, guys, back again. And I've always been a big wrestling fan, and I'm not gonna talk about wrestling that much. And then something happens I have to talk about, and that is that the Ultimate Warrior dies, and it is kind of surreal right now, kind of like watching him in the Hall of Fames. Get inducted in the Hall of Fame, finally get his due, give his great speech. Though it was overshadowed a little bit by Jake the Snake's emotional speech, but at the same time, Jake the Snake's speech, but at the same time, was a great speech. And then to see him at WrestleMania 30, and then he's on Monday Night Raw, kind of transforming back into the Warrior, and then you get the news that he died. It's surreal that he finally gets in the Hall of Fame, gets his due, and then he dies. And of course, a lot of theories are going on because, of course, he said he always loved his kids and all this other stuff. He said people like, Warrior's spirit will live on after he dies, and everybody's just like conspiracy theories. And really, sometimes things just happen. I doubt it was motivated. The only thing that at all has been reported about the known about his death is that basically, outside of a hotel in Arizona, at 5:50 p.m. Tuesday, while walking to the car with his wife, I guess basically he basically suddenly like collapsed and was rushed to the hospital and then later dead. That's all that's being reported. WWE announced that he had passed away. So, I have a lot of memories of the Ultimate Warrior. I remember I was big into WWE, WWF at the time, now WWE, of course. And I remember back then I would watch like every snippet I could get at WWF, the weekend show on USA that would show like the best of clips, and then of course Saturday had the wrestling. I mean, anytime wrestling was on involving WWF, even if it was stuff I ever seen, I'd watch it over and over again. I was watching the time that Hogan had debuted in or had won WrestleMania 1, and so I got to see the debut of like Macho Man Randy Savage. The first time the Ultimate Warrior debuted on TV, and he blew me away. I mean, how big he was, how he had kind of like the 80s colors when you really look at all of his colors on the Ultimate Warrior, and he had the streamers and stuff, and he'd run with so much energy and so much energy ran into the ring. You just couldn't help but get excited just watch him run around the ring and shake the ropes. I mean, you just got pumped when he came out because you knew when he came out something exciting was going to happen. It was never a slow match when he was wrestling. And of course, everybody knows his speeches, his promos were interesting. They were never boring, right? Kind of, and I don't want to. The only guy that does like kind of like weird speeches with right now is Bray Wyatt. Nothing near the Ultimate Warrior, but for the most part, no one was like the Warrior when he gave a promo, when he was talking. He was entertaining, and you watched it. And a lot of times you're enthralled, even if you didn't know what he was actually talking about. You watched it because, there was just something mesmerizing about the Warrior. And there was a time where I was a Warrior fan over Hogan, and when they wrestled at WrestleMania, that was like one of the few times I was completely torn who I wanted to win. I wanted Warrior to win the belt, but Hogan was my, your first favorite wrestler, and you never want them to like totally lose. But I was torn, and then I was excited that Warrior won because every time someone new wins, you get excited. And he had a great run at WWE. Oh, sorry, WWF, whatever you want to call it. And then he, of course, left. He came back and left a couple times. I mean, that's just how his career went. He had issues with WWF and that's all well documented. He was his own person, unlike many other guys in wrestling. He was his own man. He had his own rules he lived by, and he was going to break them. So it led to issues, obviously. And then he came back to WCW. It was 1998. Back when, like, you had the Monday Night Wars. And when they first announced he'd come back, I was really excited. Right? All right, Warrior's coming back, and watched all the stuff leading up to him, the hype about him coming back, and then he made his debut in WCW, and it was such a letdown. And I don't think he was not the letdown. It was what a storyline letdown that they built up all this hype, and then when he actually showed up, and it didn't live up to the hype. Number one thing in wrestling. You better have one heck of a storyline planned out, or when someone shows up, it can fall flat on his face. In this case, of course, WCW is known as a train wreck, and this is one of the cases where they completely blew a very popular wrestler in the storyline. And Warrior, changes, Ultimate Warrior changed his real life name to Warrior, and his wife and his kids' names. So they're all their last names are Warrior. And so that was interesting that he's so far into the character he changed his name. But he gave me so many memories. I mean, he was just such an energetic guy, grabbing those ropes, just pulling those ropes. I mean, he was such a neat guy at the time. And that's what made, again, when you talk about the era he came in, every wrestler had its own little unique thing back then, and he was very unique, and he stuck out. And as a kid, the high energetic guy was the kind of guy you liked, so you gravitated towards him. He was like a superhero. That's like I call Hogan. Warrior and Hogan were almost superheroes, and I think that's why kids gravitated to him, because they were like superheroes. They weren't, they to your eyes as a kid, they weren't human. They were just superheroes. They couldn't lose. They couldn't do no wrong. The Ultimate Warrior was so strong. He'd run around the ring, pull on those ropes. You just got caught up in it. It's funny, the tweets that were going up by wrestlers was Batista saying that he was glad, he got to meet the Warrior, and basically that to tell him that when Batista goes up and he does the rope thing, it was actually an homage to Ultimate Warrior, who's one of his favorite wrestlers. It's kind of cool. Again, kind of surreal that he gets in the Hall of Fame, he goes on Raw, and then bam, he's gone. Irony at its best, in a sense. He got where he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame. Fans wanted to get him there. He got there, and he got there before he passed away. So, what do you think about the Ultimate Warrior dying? What I mean by that is, did you ever watch Ultimate Warrior wrestle? Did you have fond memories of him? Was he one of your favorite wrestlers? Did you happen to see like the Hall of Fame and the WrestleMania, and then Raw, and then it shock you that he dies right after that? Like literally, like the next day, he dies. I just had to talk about this because he's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I had to do a video on this of all time growing up. I mean, Hogan was my first wrestler, right? The first wrestler I totally, that was my wrestler at the time. Hogan, eat your vitamins, all that stuff he said and did. And the second guy that was like my big guy in wrestling was later Ultimate Warrior. So love to hear your guys' comments and thoughts on Ultimate Warrior. Again, it's definitely my thoughts go out to his family and his daughters. Such a shock for this to happen all of a sudden. And like always, guys, thanks for liking, favorite, subscribing. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you later.